So we're going to try a bit of a different video today. I'm in a location outside. There's a cat. And I just thought today's video, I would talk about how much did I actually make selling vintage. So I know that a lot of people that get into this industry probably get into it for a number of reasons. I think that one element is nostalgia, people that used to wear the clothing, people that have just been familiarised with vintage, whether it's through heritage of being brought up on it or just genuinely being interested by it. The second is it's one element of a convenient sort of job. So you work based on setting your own hours, but this is all assumed based on the momentum that you've built up of creating a business. But you know, every journey starts with a single step, but that kind of element, the convenience, and then the money, the fact that you can make and generate money from it, whether it's side hustle money, whether it's an actual business, or even more, you know, a franchise of loads of your own vintage stores. The world's your oyster and the possibilities are endless. But today I wanted to talk, and let me just check my little note and just see. This is Gully the cat, by the way, for anybody who's interested. I think he's camera shy, he started hiding behind me. So how much did I make selling vintage? So I want to make a real clear distinction between a few words that I use, and when I write them down, I know that this is the word that I used to use it for. So when people think about how much money they made, people will always say how much they turned over, whereas what you actually made is the result of what was left after all of your outgoings and the money that you charged. Like the difference in the cost of everything plus the return of what you actually got. So I'm going to talk about this in maybe two ways. Maybe talk about it in like how much did I actually generate selling vintage and how much did I actually make selling vintage. So I've been in this industry, had been in the industry as like a big player of the whole ecosystem for the best part of 12 years. So like continuously being in this. And when I say like 12 years of being in it, I'm one of them people. The momentum that I generated was because I worked 7 days a week and I worked constantly and I sacrificed all personal parts of life. I made a decision and I stuck with it and I was like, this is the way I'm going. So these are certain elements that I think are to be considered. Now, it's really hard to like give like positives to yourself. So I don't know why we live in this like world where people struggle to say things that's good about them in fear of sounding arrogant, but it's not. One of my main features of like what made me successful at the time was my resilience. I've got an obsessive personality. I'm a massive collector of anything, and I just get obsessed with things, whether it's people, whether it's products. That sounded like a bit nuts. Not obsessed with people in a weird sense, but just obsessed by things that catch my attention in life and they come across. So, you know, that coupled with a resilience of not wanting to actually give up, wanting to do this until it wasn't successful, you know, running it through its course, was a big factor in what played with how I was able to create leverage, create momentum, and create like a hype around a brand. And that's a hype about a brand is obviously for another story. But so when we look at how much we made selling vintage, I will kind of look at it from two elements. So the actual money that was made is a lot different to what we generated. However, the amount that we generated sounds really cool. I'm not like a big figures guy anymore. I'm not like bothered by it. So I haven't looked at the numbers, but based on how we used to do things, within this ballpark, we generated probably between £4 to £7 million over the course of the 12 years. And what has to be remembered with that turnover is that what we actually made was a massive difference to that. I mean, I did have one year, and I think one of my best year ever was when I gross profited just shy of £1 million. And again, that's not net profit, that's gross. That's before you take away everything that's a part of it. But just for some sort of scope of like who I am and where I've been, this was money generated for the most part. Most of the money was generated on the website itself. And a big part of it was through ASOS, and I can't give ASOS's praises enough for at the time of what it played in that role of it. However, we used it to pioneer a website, and the website generated more money than third-party platforms did. So, Spencer, what is the importance of me actually knowing about that? How does that number place into anything? Like, how does that give any input into anything? Well, whenever I used to watch content around things that were similar, or whenever I used to try and find inspiration, one of my areas of inspiration would be the feeling of knowing where either the limit was or how limitless this situation would be. And knowing what people can achieve helped me to believe that I could achieve that. So I kind of just want to use that to pass it on to whether you're somebody who's concerned with how much you make or worried with how much you could make. This is definitely something that you can make an honest, genuine and serious business out of. And a lot of the money that I generated, there's still people out in the ecosystem that spend money. I will say that we're in a supply over a demand situation at the moment, where people are selling it more than people are buying it, and therefore there's more people in the industry and a lot less opportunities to make that same amount of money. However, there's no way that it would be impossible to ever get to a good point. But there's a lot of factors to take into account. How hungry are you to succeed? How resilient are you? How much do you want this to be your life? I made Gully my DNA, so much so that people called me that in person. Like, for the best part of 10 years to 12 years of my life, I've not been Spencer. I've been Gully. And that was a complete commitment to the cause of what I was doing for a bigger picture of what I was hoping to create. But that sacrificed me as a person being the complete ecosystem of it, who was the person that was the driving force for all of the factors, and so on and so forth. So when you think about how much I made or how much I generated over the period of time that I did with the resources that I had, I would be honest and say one factor that you should consider is a big part of my success was the fact that nothing in my life seemed to compete with what I was actually building. And whether that's an offense to the people that were in my life, or whether that was just a reinforcement of how obsessive I was, it was Gully to the world, Gully to the moon. That's where I'm off. And that's what I did. So, he's still listening, nice. So, take that information how you will, guys. Hopefully this video has found you well. Hopefully I don't look like too much of a weirdo just stood here. I know it's quite zoomed back, but try new things. What does Einstein say? You can't do the same thing and expect a different result. So we're outside, baby, in the absolute freezing cold weather. Yeah, appreciate you as always, guys. If you've ever got any points you want to drop a comment, feel free to do so. It means the world. It means the world. I love reading them and I love engaging with them and using that to take into the next video. So big love, guys, as always. Appreciate you. Stay sustainable, stay safe, and yeah, do you.